Hi YouTube! Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Maya and I'm an animator and storyboard artist who is currently producing an independently animated show. I want to apologize for everyone coming back. This video is like crazy late. I made a few community posts about it, but for people that missed it, this video was originally supposed to come out at the end of April, and that ended up not happening because I got so caught up working on my show that I ended up only getting around to the art towards my original deadline. I decided to push it to the end of May to give myself more time to work on it, but by the time I ended up getting everything together and almost ready for the final edit, I ended up getting really sick from Comic-Con, which then turned into a really bad case of hay fever that I'm not still 100% over. I'm really sorry for how late it ended up being, and to make up for it, I'm going to try, keyword try, to get my next video out by next week. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. In the last video, I asked which class you'd want to see me draw next, and the first comment I got was to do Barbarians. I love Barbarians, partially because I tend to be drawn towards more martial classes in the game, but I played one in one of my first ever campaigns. It's fun to play someone who's beefy and dumb, and I knew immediately it was going to be a great practice trying to draw muscular bodies. The first barbarian I started with was the Path of the Ancestral Guardian, described on the wiki as, quote, "Some barbarians hail from cultures that revere their ancestors. These tribes teach that the warriors of the past linger in the world as mighty spirits, who can guide and protect the living. When a barbarian who follows this path rages, the barbarian contacts the spirit world and calls on these guardian spirits for aid. Barbarians who draw on their ancestral guardians can better fight to protect their tribes and their allies. In order to cement ties to their ancestral guardians, barbarians who follow this path cover themselves in elaborate tattoos that celebrate their ancestors' deeds. These tattoos tell sagas of victories against terrible monsters and other fearsome rivals." You can see that I started this time with trying to get the poses out, something that I was clearly struggling with on a few of these. It's been a minute since I've done any kind of figure drawing, but I wanted to have the characters in more dynamic poses than in my Bards video. I decided to make them a tabaxi, partially because of the bit about the tattoos. I am an animator primarily, so tattoos are kind of a nightmare to draw. I thought that having a tiger whose tattoos were their stripes was a fun idea. Plus, a lot of the barbarian subclasses have some problematic implications tying them to Native Americans that I was really doing my best to avoid here, and with a few of the other designs in this video. This design kind of ended up being my favorite, just because I fell in love with the colors. It's hard to figure out how to balance the colors on these characters well between what's realistic and what's fun. You can kind of tell in the later designs that I was really trying to make interesting palettes. It's definitely something that I want to explore more in my next video at least. The next barbarian is the Path of the Battle Rager. Quote, known as, and I am going to completely mess up the pronunciation of this, Kuldjarg? Literally translating to axe idiot in Dwarvish. Battle Ragers are dwarf followers of the gods of war and take the path of the Battle Rager. They specialize in wearing bulky, spiked armor and throwing themselves into combat, striking with their body itself and giving themselves over to the fury of battle." Unquote. I feel like my decision to make them a dwarf should be obvious. For some reason, I really latched onto the idea of hedgehogs. I think because of the description of spiked armor. You can see me trying my best to make the design look good with all of the spikes. I'm also a big fan of how the axe turned out. Prop and weapon designs especially are things I'm not as practiced with, and this whole series is sort of my way of trying new things out. This design also starts the trend in the rest of my designs of lots of furs. I poked around at a lot of barbarians designed by others to get a vibe of how everyone else does them, and I quickly realized that while bards have a lot of fancy jewelry and silks, barbarians have fur, and a lot of it. The next design is another favorite of mine from this batch. The Path of the Beast is described as, quote, "Barbarians who walk the path of the beast draw their rage from a bestial spark burning within their souls. That beast bursts forth in the throes of rage, physically transforming the barbarian. Such a barbarian might be inhabited by a primal spirit or be descended from shapeshifters." Like the description says, I wanted to draw someone who looks absolutely feral. It's probably not too obvious from the design, but they're a shifter. The origins for both the race and the class include lycanthropy, so I wanted to give a raised by wolves vibe to them. I really like how their colors and expression especially turned out, but I think my biggest mistake was that the pose wasn't very good for showing off the outfit, even if the outfit is pretty simple regardless. The path of the Berserker is basically just what a stereotypical barbarian looks like, which ironically made this the hardest design to do for me. I feel like a majority of the barbarians I see online are usually orcs, so I tried to mix and match elements from different designs I was seeing to make something new but also familiar. There are a lot of shirtless barbarian guys out there. Then, like I said, a lot of furs on everyone. This was also probably one of the hardest poses for me to get right. My method with all of these was to just draw my reference and then add muscle and change the proportions after, but every time I tried to edit the proportions, it looked terrible. Eventually, I settled after adjusting the pose a little. Next up was the Path of the Giant, described as, quote, barbarians who walk the path of the giant draw strength from the same primal forces as giants. As they rage, these barbarians surge with elemental power and grow in size, taking on forms that evoke the glory of giants. Some barbarians look like oversized versions of themselves, perhaps with a hint of elemental energy flaring in their eyes and around their weapons. Others transform more dramatically, taking on the appearance of an actual giant or a form similar to an elemental, wreathed in fire, frost, or lightning. What was hard about this one was that this path and my next one, the Storm Herald, felt very similar, particularly since they both had to do with the elements. I started with the obvious part. This is the path of the giant, so it makes sense to have them be a giant race. I decided on making them a Goliath and sort of went from there. With Goliaths being from the mountains, I also decided to give them lots of warmer clothes and a colder color palette. Then, like I said before, I tend to avoid drawing complicated tattoos, so I just sort of defaulted to tiger stripes again. I think part of my interpretation of them was like that one tattoo set from Baldur's Gate 3 that kind of looks like an eclipse. Either way, going forward, I think I want to work on drawing actual tattoos on these characters. Storm Heralds, meanwhile, are described as, quote, typical barbarians harbor a fury that dwells within. Their rage grants them superior strength, durability, and speed. Barbarians who follow the path of the Storm Herald learn instead to transform their rage into a mantle of primal magic that swirls around them. When in a fury, a barbarian of this path taps into nature to create powerful magical effects. Storm Heralds are typically elite champions who train alongside druids, rangers, and others sworn to protect the natural realm. Other Storm Heralds hone their craft in elite lodges found in regions racked by storms, in the frozen reaches at the world's end, or deep in the hottest deserts. The word storm gave me a very specific idea in my mind of what this character could look like. While Storm Heralds and Giants both can have elemental magic related to lightning, I decided to make the Path of the Giant more related to ice and frost in favor of making the Storm Herald an actual Storm Herald. I decided on making them a bronze Dragonborn, considering their breath weapon is lightning, and I liked the mix of colors better than a blue Dragonborn. I am not as used to drawing dragons or Dragonborn, so I also had a little trouble with this one, but I think they turned out pretty alright. You can see that I struggled with the scales a lot. The Path of the Totem Warrior is another one that I felt might have been vaguely problematic, so every decision here was something I hesitated on. This path is entirely based around having a spirit animal, and depending on which you choose, you get different buffs from it. I chose Elk here, which makes you have additional movement per turn. I made the clothes a little more sparse and practical for faster movement because of this. Also because I wanted to show off their muscles more. They ended up looking a little bit like Astrid from How to Train Your Dragon, I think. A wild magic barbarian is described as, quote, many places in the multiverse abound with beauty, intense emotion, and rampant magic. The Feywild, the upper planes, and other realms of supernatural power radiate with such forces and can profoundly influence people. As folk of deep feeling, barbarians are especially susceptible to these wild influences. With some barbarians being transformed by the magic, these magic-suffused barbarians walk the path of wild magic. Elf, Tiefling, Aasimar, and Genasi barbarians often seek this path, eager to manifest the otherworldly magic of their ancestors. I thought the idea of an Aasimar barbarian sounded really cool, so I ran with it. This was another design that I really liked in this batch, but if I could go back and change it, I probably would. I felt like I could have done better with the colors to show off the stars in their skin better. I liked how their color palette turned out at least, and I liked the wing ears instead of giving them full angel wings, though I did consider doing that. Funny enough, the reason I gave the Path of the Totem Warrior Barbarian light hair is because I didn't want to give the Wild Magic Barbarian it. A lot of my references for them had glowy white hair, but I ended up going with orange and gave the lighter hair to the Totem Warrior instead. I also had a couple of references with glowing golden scars or tattoos, and I liked the idea to try it here. The last design is the Path of the Zealot Barbarian. Quote, some deities inspire their followers to pitch themselves into a ferocious battle fury. These barbarians are zealots, warriors who channel their rage into powerful displays of divine power. A variety of gods across the worlds of D&D inspire their followers to embrace this path. Tempest from the Forgotten Realms and Hexter and Erithnol of Greyhawk, sorry to Erithnol of Greyhawk for mispronouncing your name, are all prime examples. In general, the gods who inspire zealots are deities of combat, destruction, and violence. Not all are evil, but few are good. With the class being mostly described as evil, I knew I wanted to go with a creepy zealot design. A tiefling made the most sense. For their horns, I knew I wanted to go with a broken halo look based on some of the other demon designs I've seen done over the years. The rest sort of fell into place from there. And with that, here's the finished art. Like I said before, I'm hoping to get my next video out next week, which will be the Druids video. After that, let me know what you want to see next. Before I say goodbye, I also want to let people know that I've got an online shop now, as well as a Ko-Fi if you're inclined to leave a tip. I certainly appreciate it. Both will be linked in the description. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you're new around here, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all that. It helps me get my work seen by more people. And if you like my work, you can find my socials down below. I will see you all next time.